Welcome to CPG Vibes. No scripts,
just chat.
I'm Alex Baer.
And I'm Wade Yenny.
Each episode is recorded live, and we talk all things food and beverage, and so much more.
Feel our vibe and search for CPG Vibes on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and make sure to give us a 5-star review.
If you'd like to sponsor our show with your product or service, email us at cpgvibes100@gmail.com.
Now, let's vibe.
All right, welcome to episode 149 of CPG Vibes. Hope everyone is doing really well out there. Wade, you look nice and cozy over there in your turtleneck kind of thing going on. How you doing out there?
I'm doing well, Alex. Technically it's a hoodie, and in the spirit of, I don't have any. Well, I do actually have something. And I'm not going to rub your face in it because you wouldn't have this sample because it's a client. But I just figured I'd get in the right mood here. What do you think of that? How's that
Vibes?
Look? Yes.
Vibes.
This is one of our newest clients.
Okay.
Vibe Snacks.
Very cool.
The hat doesn't really work with the headphones, but
no,
that's pretty slick though, right?
It works on you because you're bald. You can cover your head.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I need to take this off and put it on like that, but
Exactly.
I'm doing well. It's good to be here.
So what is Vibes? What is it?
Vibes is a functional and snackable item. It's the one I have in my hand is the Cherry Force Field. Okay, and they 80 calories, non-GMO, fat-free, and get this, Alex, this little pack that you see right here, 17 grams of dietary fiber.
Without an Olipop, that will get you moving real quick.
It'll get you moving. Yeah. So one of our newest clients, great stuff. I'll put the link up here so people.
Is the on the package? Does it say is toilet included or not?
I don't think so. But no, it's great people behind the brand, and we're excited. We're excited to be working with them, and
awesome.
I'll put the link up there for everybody to check out.
Awesome. Okay. Well, I hope everyone is doing well. Today is a very poignant and a great episode because I talked last week. We talked, I should say. It's not it's we, right? About many things going on, including the Los Angeles fires and also just entrepreneurs that work too hard and burn out, and you feel the effects for weeks, months, maybe even years. And so we felt it would be a great topic to do an expert series on burnout and how to overcome burnout and tips and strategies. And I'm pretty sure everyone we're bringing on at some point has either physically or mentally collapsed from burnout, whether it's on the ground, whether it's having to stop working and reevaluate how to manage your life and how to manage your business and personal, which is very, very hard to do. And so these individuals, Karls of Mid-Day Squares, co-founder, Luke Abbott, you know him, right? Do I have to even say who he is at this point? And VDriven, and Drew Henry, the co-founder, Revival Tea, good friend of mine, just spoke to him about a week and a half ago, made a great great post on LinkedIn about burnout and how he's really went through that and come out the other side and really what he's learned. So they're going to share their stories of burnout. They're going to share their stories of how they overcame it. And it's going to be very compelling because everyone at some point has suffered from burnout, including yours truly, right? So some laundry list items just to talk about. We have our sponsor here, and I'm going to upgrade them to a premier sponsor. I just came up with that word because we prepare for nothing on the show.
I like it.
Do you know how long Wade and I prepared for this episode before the taping? How long, Wade?
A minute?
I would say 30 seconds, but yeah, let's round it up to a minute. So this episode is sponsored by Powerful Energy Distribution, Robert Kogan, and then one of his clients and brands, also the sponsor, is Sati Soda. So they are the premier sponsor for this episode. And Sati Soda, and you'll notice our intros are getting a lot shorter because we're slimming it down to just one sponsor per episode versus 2 or 3. Because God knows you don't want to hear me be talking for 3 or 4 minutes about all this, right? We lose people that way. We want to make sure you're focused in on the show, focused in on the sponsors. That's some of the major changes we made. So what is Sati Soda? They're committed to creating the only certified organic functional soda on the market by using clean, course, a call comes in. Yeah, using clean, non-GMO, functional, and USDA certified organic ingredients, Sati strives for great taste without being overly sweet, giving people a truly unique soda option. They also have Sati Soda Slim, a functional beverage with only organic ingredients, green coffee bean for 150 milligrams of clean caffeine, and appetite suppression. Lion's mane, that's a category now, appetite suppression. Lion's mane supporting cognitive and caffeine absorption. Vitamin C to support immunity and skin health. And simple and clean, but refreshing and great tasting, sweetened with only organic monk fruit. Zero sugar, zero stevia, zero artificial sweeteners. Sati Soda, they haven't launched their crowdfunding campaign. I think actually they have. I'm sorry. But they were a previous client of mine. So I got to taste their product. I found it at Bristol Farms. It's phenomenal. And they do have a CBD option, I believe, or THC CBD, but the one that Robert is promoting is their non-THC. It's the functional with lion's mane and other mushrooms. And he's bringing that into Canada. There's going to be a 12-pack mixed variety for a prize. So make sure to stay tuned until the very end to win that prize. Something we mentioned in this episode, something about Wade's hat that he didn't put on, something about the product he mentioned, maybe the flavor name. I just blew one right there. Now we can't use it. So we're going to say something, and then we're going to use that as the trivia prize. So, or trivia question. So a couple things, we're going to bring our guests on in 3 minutes. Sorry, Luke, it's going to be at the 15 mark because I blabbed too much. So is that a Christmas tree? No, it's not. Okay. So we're going to, we can see them, but you can't. We're going to talk about some pretty big news items. We won't go into major detail, but Wade, TikTok, we were talking about this in the green room. Potential shutdown at least goes dark on Sunday. And by Monday, it has to be purchased by an American company, because right now it's owned by a Chinese company. And Biden, not to get too political, but he said that at least their administration, it's going dark on Sunday. The big problem for me, where am I going to see Jay Karls dance? That's the problem.
On LinkedIn.
LinkedIn. There we go. There's the answer. So anyway, we won't talk too much about it, but that's a news item. Spindrift acquired by private equity, $650 million. It's another one. And another one, my friend Rosalie over there at Wild Wonder, they went national with Whole Foods. I don't know if you saw the photo and all that.
Yep.
And I know that they at least have a connection with VDriven as well from the past. And I saw the photo of Rosalie jumping in midair. Pretty cool. So congratulations to the Wild Wonder team. Phenomenal product. And they deserve all that success. So youtube.com/@CPG Vibes. We're going to be posting that right after, so you can find all the videos. If you want to sponsor our show, cpgvibes100@gmail.com. I don't have the cheat sheet open. Am I missing anything? I'm testing my memory.
I think you're good.
Okay, sweet. All right, now, again, I hope everyone is safe, and I know we're just still dealing with the middle and at some point the aftermath of these fires. So again, we extend just our thoughts, prayers, and just good vibes, right, to anyone that's been affected by these fires in Los Angeles. I'm in LA, 40 miles south of where the fires are. So luckily we were not directly affected with any immediate danger, only bad air quality, but we extend our thoughts to everyone who's suffering from that. And it's a terrible thing. So, all right. Well, with all that said, we're going to be bringing on our guests here. So in no particular order, just going to put on a little music here. We have Drew Henry with Revival Tea. We have Luke Abbott with VDriven. Jay Karls with Mid-Day Squares. And wow, what happened there? What is going on there?
How did you do that?
How the hell did you do that? Was that you or
I
us?
didn't do anything.
We didn't do anything either.
Someone's playing around here. It ain't me.
Not me. I'm trying to put links up in the chat for crying out loud.
I want to know how that happened so we can do that again. That was crazy.
I swear I didn't do anything.
Yeah, I feel like Drew and I were kind of left out of this coolness thing, but it was great to see you. Right?
Yeah. For those that are listening, by the way, because we're big on Apple Podcasts, make sure to give us 5 stars, by the way, in Apple Podcasts. We're #1 in the world in CPG. There was a psychedelic Coachella electric dance music kind of effect around Jake, and the system picked Jake, I guess. So that's what happened. So
AI.
That
It's
was-
AI.
it's AI.
That was funny.
They know that Jake is the party guy, so that's why it's around you.
It's
Okay, so we're gonna go around the room, the virtual room, and just have you guys introduce yourselves. And one interesting thing, that's just tradition on the show. One thing about you that we do not, at least the public, does not know about you. And I'm going to start with Drew Henry up in the upper right corner. Drew, thanks, my man, for joining our show.
Yeah, Drew Henry, founder, CEO of Revival Tea Company. I get asked this question, and the answer I typically give, because I wasn't prepared, is I was a touring musician at one point in my life, a different lifetime. So most people don't know that.
What did you play?
I can play everything super mediocre, but just like in business, I surrounded myself with people who were better than I was. So I typically sing in between all the other greatness.
Okay, next time we meet up, Palm Springs karaoke bar, you and me.
Oh, man.
We'll hit it. All right. So welcome to our show, my man. And Luke, I'm just going to call you Luke. You don't even need your last name. No introduction needed. One thing, introduce yourself, even though you don't need to. And one thing about you that we do not know.
Okay, my name is Luke Abbott, founder and CEO of VDriven. Also have the Reconnected podcast. And one thing you don't know is when I used to own a distribution company, I was trying to convert a brand from Boar's Head to Dietz and Watson. And we took them to everybody to Philadelphia. And the buyers illegally climbed City Hall, that largest masonry building in the world that has the statue of, something Penn. And we almost got arrested. We actually were detained by the police. So, yeah.
Wow. But no rap sheet, right?
No, they let us go. Thank God. So now you know my secret, Alex. Please don't use it against me.
I won't, but one of our viewers may. I can't guarantee that. No, I think we all love you. So, by the way, the Reconnected podcast, you glossed over it very, very quickly. Apple Podcast, search for Reconnected podcast with Luke Abbott, double B, double T. I'm thinking of double A MCO.
I know you were.
Luke Abbott. And he just posted an episode 2 days ago, episode number 20 with Dave Hirschkopf. So make sure.
I did put the link in the chat. It's not showing up on our StreamYard, so I can put it up underneath, but the link is in the chat for Luke's podcast.
There you go. So once you give us 5 stars on CPG Vibes, scroll down to Reconnected, give them 5 stars, and then give it a listen. Jake Karls, how you doing, my man? One thing about you we don't know.
One thing about me, I can never, maybe some of you know this, but a lot of people don't, is I've never tried my own products, other than one of the 5 flavors. So I'm allergic to nuts and peanuts, and I started a company that produces a lot of products with nuts and peanuts. And my allergist told me, excuse my language, what the F are you doing? Going into a facility, you got to be out of your mind. So that's a little, you got to be crazy and delusional a little bit in life, no? So that's one of the things about me.
Cool. And the one that you can have, is that the cookie dough?
I can only have the brownie batter at the current moment, but some of the innovation going forward may not use some nuts and peanuts. And yeah, hopefully I will have outgrown my allergy.
Cool. All right. Sounds good. That's something I already knew, but a lot of people did not know about you. But coconut you can have, right?
I could eat coconut. I could eat coconut. Yeah.
Okay, good. So, and I don't recommend for a refrigerated bar, it's very hard to use coconut. It can be done, but it's very hard.
It's
so,
extremely difficult.
Coming from personal experience for 11 years of handling a refrigerated coconut item with real coconut meat. Genius juice. All right. So we're just going to open it up to the floor, right? Wade, I usually don't do that. I usually go to one person, but who would like to start to talk about your story of how you burned out, how you kind of led up to that, and what you've done to implement things in your life to hopefully reduce that from happening again. So who would like to start? Someone can take the torch.
I'm open, Alex.
Go ahead, Luke.
Okay.
You have the floor.
So I really hit a wall. I was growing a distribution company called Monterey Provision. I sold it to KeHE in 2016 and became leader of the fresh division over there, and decided I wanted to get my MBA at the same time. I think I had aspirations of being CEO of KeHE, and was just integrating two companies together. I never even took a day off in the moment I sold the company. I sold the company. We're on a private jet flying around the country, visiting different warehouses and retailers. And I got really sick. I got a disease called Meniere's that caused me to be dizzy and sometimes not even know which way is up some days. And I was still trying to operate, getting my MBA, doing these integration, working crazy number of hours. And I was just on my knees one day and just praying to God. I'm just like, I don't know. I can know if I can continue what I can do. I don't know if I can even work anymore. I feel like I'm going to be in bed. Like I should just be in bed all the time, trying to get better. And I had to make a lot of changes. I changed my diet. I lost weight. I left KeHE to go work at Jimbo's, where Wade had worked. I got eventually got a life coach. I totally changed my life. I started journaling. I've journaled most days for the last 5 years, and it's so fun to be able to go back 5 years ago and see where I was. But it's been a crazy journey. But I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful that I was forced to stop, and grateful that I was brought to my knees to make tremendous change in my life. I'm so much more connected to myself and my family. So it's been even though it sucked, it's been a blessing beyond blessings.
Awesome. And I remember hearing your story about you typed it out, or like I think you literally like collapsed or something, like at a warehouse or something.
I did. They had to haul me in. They had bought a forklift and a pallet, and they threw me on a pallet and forklifted me into the warehouse because I couldn't stand up. I was just vomiting over and over and over again. Jeez. I just couldn't operate. My body said no more. Like the burnout wasn't necessarily my mind. My burnout was my body. Just said, I'm done. Yeah. We're not doing this anymore.
It just stopped you in your tracks. Drew, how about you? Thank you for sharing that, Luke. Yeah.
That was awesome. I feel like picking up off of the end of Luke's story is the ending of, in our company, we share gratitude to start every meeting. And the gratitude that I've been sharing almost all week is just what a better place I'm at mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually than I was a year ago. I think that starting with the end of like a year ago, I was in it. Like I was face down on the floor, to Alex's point of couldn't even lift myself up because I was deep in the burnout. And I think my story is one that, like, if you're dealing with it, like you're in the middle of it. It's not the end. Like there are better days to come. And so my story really is something that you'll hear me talk about is therapy's been an enormous part of my journey. It was something that I was very against. And I think what therapy made me realize was I was in burnout when I started Revival 7 years ago now, through a personal trauma. And I think anyone who's been through, therapy with burnout realizes that most of the time it is trauma related. And so I started the company in a sense of survival and a sense of burnout already that really compounded when you double your business every single year and you're an entrepreneur and you add a young child into the mix, which is a lot for any parent anyways. That spiraled into me being at a place in our business growing so quick that I worked 27 hours in 1 week, 27 hours straight. Literally 27 hours straight to get an enormous distribution deal order out, putting my hands on the production line. And then that week, I think I was at like 135 hours that week total worked. So my burnout story really lasted 6 years, I would say, with multiple levels of trauma. And the number one thing I would say is that you can read all the books you want to, you can listen to all the podcasts you want to, but getting a chance to work with a therapist who specialized in helping executives deal with burnout really unlocked a lot for me.
Yeah, beautiful. Well said. And you're also working on, you've mentioned this in some of your posts, Drew, about a kind of a workshop or some kind of help network on burnout for entrepreneurs. Can you tell us more about what you're up to there?
Yeah, I think what I realized through just haphazardly posting some stuff on LinkedIn was that this is something a lot of people are dealing with. I had a handful of people close to me that you would never know. Like we all hide it, right? Like I think vulnerability is a big part of it. And I think what comes on the other side of burnout is the ability to be authentic and transparent. And so there's people who reached out to me that you never know. Seems like they're crushing it, right? And it just made me realize that because therapy is such a dirty word to people, that there needs to be more resources for people like us, that there's a lot of people, entrepreneurs specifically, dealing with burnout. So looking at a few different things in terms of how we can build a community to support each other, because I think there's a lot of us who feel passionate about this subject. And I think there's some bigger things down the road that I'm working on that maybe we can really make this an accessible way for people to get the help that they need.
Awesome. Yeah. And I remember in our conversation, Drew, we had last week, an hour and 30 minutes, and I remember we were about halfway through and I'm like, hey, Drew, are you good on time? And you're like, I'm good, just as long as it takes. Yeah. So thank you for giving me the time and vice versa. And something that I'm also exploring, because I went through burnout, is going into a type of therapy as well. Right. And I always saw that there was a stigma to it. And that's why I never really came to my senses to go to it. But now that more and more entrepreneurs are using this as a resource, and it's become a great way just to feel better without really not feeling ashamed of it. There's nothing to be ashamed of when going to therapy. It's helpful. It's great. It helps you self-reflect and get your thoughts out to someone else and get a third-party perspective, and they're listening to you unconditionally. So you sent me a resource to a website to find a therapist, and I'm looking into that as well. So thanks for providing that.
What I would say real quick, Alex, is I think entrepreneurs, we have such a good foundation of self-development already. We all know a lot of the wake up early, take care of yourself. All this is, it's once you get that therapy side, you're I knew all of this. And I think we're all very well equipped to make it through burnout once we have the proper guidance and tools.
Exactly right, man. And I just want to mention, their crowdfunding campaign as well, because it's on fire. So wefunder.com/revival-T, and you can Google it, WeFunder Revival T as well. And you're at, I think, 520,000 last time I checked, probably higher at this point. So congrats, man, on all the success there.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you. Trying to cross 1 million by the end of April.
You'll do it. I have all the faith that you will do it. No doubt. Jake, thanks for waiting patiently, my man. How are you? And share with us your story.
Yeah, well, thanks, Luke and Drew, honestly, and Alex, for sharing a little bit about that. And I'm excited to hear Wade's after. But for me, I went through it about 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago. I think it was actually a year and a half. And mine was a little bit different, similar feelings in how they both felt, but a little bit different on how it happened. Working hard on the business, trying to build it, working many hours. We were actually going through a lot of growth, and it was super exciting. And a way to decompress for me, at least what I thought was physical stuff. I played hockey a lot at night alone, and I'd go outdoors in the rinks here in Canada, and I would just skate around, play around for 2 hours and clear my mind and feel so good. And the movement that created dopamine, it created relaxation, the type of meditation, even though it was a really high intense physical activity. And one day as I was skating, we had a lot of good things going in the business, a lot of momentum, and I was scared to lose it. In my head, subconsciously, which I now know consciously, I was consciously scared to lose it all. And I was always one step away of thinking that it would all go away and disappear. So there's this immense amount of tense in my system and stress, and that I didn't really know. And I was playing hockey one day, and I was trying to impress a 13-year-old who was watching me, and I was trying to take a really fast wrist shot, a deep flex wrist shot. And as I went for the wrist shot, I actually tripped on a little dent in the ice, and I fell forward and I caught myself, but I extended my back tremendously, and I felt a snap or some sort of weird thing. And I continued to play like a hero, tried to be cool, and I played for an hour, and the pain was so brutal that I had to go home. And I actually went to my parents' house and felt my mom would be able to take care of me, and she did. And she put a heating pad and ice. And the next day I woke up with, again, immense amount of pain, but this time it was electrical feelings. And I was like, holy shit, did I actually hurt myself? Because I've never been really that injured before. And a lot of my role and identity and what I do is physical. I dance, I travel a lot. So I need to be mobile in what I'm doing. And, that fear kicked in where I was like, oh my God, I'm going to lose it all right now. I can't move. And that turned into a psychological down spiral. And I went down this deep, dark path where I just started to like be scared of everything. I thought I was like a piece of glass that I would break anywhere I go because I couldn't really walk. I couldn't really do anything. And that fast forward into me checking every medical procedure possibly out, you know, basically analyzing every book that you could imagine on backs, on muscle. I was reading medical level style reading, and I stopped caring about work, stopped caring about anything around me in my life. All I cared about was solving this medical issue that I thought I had. And that ended up turning into other symptoms like blurred vision, all these weird symptoms that I started getting, electrical fields throughout my whole body. And I thought I had MS, and I went to all kinds of different medical, different situation specialists, and nothing came back. It was nothing. And I ended up going into full-blown burnout, and I took 40 days off of work. I did therapy every single day. I felt lethargic every day. I didn't want to get out of bed. I was rude to the people I loved. I was rude to people I cared about. Our business was on fire. I couldn't care less if it closed. And after the 40 days, I tried everything else. And one thing that really worked well for me to get me back on my feet was obviously eating healthy, sleeping well, you know, caring about the people that matter around me and actually spending time being present with them. But the most important thing that I think worked for me to get me out of this was, it's going to sound wild and it's not medical advice or anything along those lines, but I did hypnotherapy. So hypnosis, a major amounts of hypnosis with a professional, you know, hypnotherapist. And it completely changed my life. Like I had no control of my brain during the burnout. I was becoming very OCD of a lot of things that were happening. I was fearful of any type of thing. It's like one day my life just changed completely, and I was scared of everything. And hypnosis got me through that. And now I realize that at the end of the day, burnout, there are signs, a lot of red lights, like a car has an engine sign for your oil change or your whatever all these different signs come up on a car. The same thing comes up on a human. We are not machines. We are not unstoppable warriors. We are very, you know, we are very unique, and we are an art. Our body is very special, but it will tell you when it needs to regenerate, to recharge, to reflect, to do these things. And if you just keep passing them because you think your business needs it or someone in your life needs it, eventually there's a cost and there's a huge expense that will collapse. And in our cases, the three of us here, four of us, we have all collapsed. We have all had the engine button come on, we've ignored it, and we had more buttons, and eventually the car turned off. And that's what happened. And by the way, burnout could last a day or it could last 25 years. You don't know the effect that it's going to have. So I would just tell everybody, like, be aware of listen to your body. Your body knows what's best. It will show signs. It will, whether it's rashes on your body, whether it's immense amounts of anxiety, whether it's different types of behavior that you're doing. Just take note and be very aware. And, you know, I know Drew was talking about therapy. I've been doing therapy for 6.5 years since we started Midday Squares. And I was the type of person before that was embarrassed to do therapy. I thought it was weak in quotations, or that you were lesser of, or something was wrong with you. And when I started therapy, I did it, and I realized that this is a performance enhancer. This is a way to make you a better human, to live a better life, to improve who you are as an individual. And why would you not want to do that? It's not just about solving a problem, it's about making you better. And now I've invested, you know, every week into therapy, and now I do it with family members. I do it with people that matter close to me. And I do it with my business partners every week, day in, day out. No excuse, good or bad times, doesn't make a difference. It's one of the best tools that I think are out there. And again, you have to find your person, but once you do that, do not stop the consistency.
That's great. Thanks for sharing that, Jake. And I want to kind of expand on it a little bit and talk a little bit about as leaders, right? So I think all of you touched upon your personal aspect, but I think if we talk about how you as founders and leading teams, because I think, you know, there's a misconception that you as a leader, you have to tough through it. And your team is, you know, you're showing quote unquote toughness to your team, when in reality, your team knows probably before you do that you're burnout, and they can see the cracks in the armor, if you will. And talk a little bit, maybe, if you would, about any experiences with that you've had, and maybe if you had a chance to go back and do something differently, what would you have done? Meaning, you know, so you're in this phase, you know, maybe not the exact situation that each of you gave, but maybe at some point in your journeys where you're leading a team and maybe you needed to take a break, but you didn't. And perhaps there was something you learned from not taking that rest, and maybe an example, if you will, of your team. Maybe someone from your team said something, or it's something you did that was like, man, if I had that to do over again, what would you do? Let's go back to Luke to start. You're on mute, Luke.
the question of like what I do differently, and it's so interesting because it's like overall, this entire journey led me to where I am today, and I would never want to change anything that led me to where I am today. I am happy, centered, connected to myself, connected to others in a healthy masculine space that I've never been in before. And so it's like, so at the core, there's nothing I would redo, right? Because I wouldn't be here were it not for the path. And so I'm grateful for that. But it, in terms of something, if I was in a hypothetical world, could redo something and do it differently, I don't know. I shall pass because I really don't know what I would do differently. Because at any given moment, I think we're doing the best we can. I used to do this therapy with my daughter. My daughter was doing, it's called dialectical behavioral therapy, or DBT. And it was like this idea that any given moment, we're all doing the best we can by definition. And if we understand that, we'll have a lot more grace for ourselves and for everybody around us. And I think that's where I am on that question.
And I respect that. I want to go to Drew, but what I would say to that, Luke, is, I often say our biggest failures many times lead to our biggest successes. And I know that's certainly true for me. And I've shared that story on your podcast, by the way, not to keep plugging it, but I shared that story, and I certainly wouldn't be where I am today without that failure. So I appreciate that. Drew, how about you?
It's funny because a comment came up on here that when I started to get help, I had a therapist, but I seeked like mentorship as well, of course. And one of my mentors, one of the things he said, I was so focused on balance. And he was like, I hate the concept of balance. I like the idea of being present in everything that you're doing. And, a year ago, like I was in that hustle culture, right? Like 15 meetings a day because I'm grinding. And what's funny is this whole experience that I had personally led to us actually creating like principles of our business. And the number one principle was fill your own cup. Like, I'm a tea guy, right? We're a tea company. And it was like, if you don't take care of yourself first, if I don't take care of myself first, I can't support our team the way that they need to be supported. If, all the way down to one of our teologists, like if you don't fill your cup first thing in the morning, we can't help our customers who come into one of our tasting rooms, etc. So, Jake said something, talking about, we equate ourselves to like a vehicle, right? And I had this recent like revelation about taking pit stops, and how when I was in the burnout, I would always say to my wife, like, I know I'm going 120 miles an hour. I know it's not sustainable. I can feel the wheels shaking. And what I kept saying was like, I need to get down to 60. And it's like, well, Formula One race cars aren't meant to go 60 miles an hour. Like, I'm a high performing entrepreneur individual that maybe it's not that. Maybe, I need to figure out what do those 220 mile an hour F1 race cars do. And what they do is they take pit stops. And so for me, and it's something we've integrated to our team as well, to your point, is like, it's okay to work hard, it's okay to grind, but let's take a pit stop. Let's put in, like, for me, music's a big part of my life. Like, go grab a tea, listen to music for 10 minutes, go for a walk, take my son for a bike ride. I think that the idea of those pit stops during our race is really what makes it sustainable long term, and we can still go as fast as we need to.
Nice. That's well said. Jake.
Yeah. First of all, I love the pit stops. I think I'm going to take that from you. Quote you, though. Don't worry. I'm going to utilize it. I think, you talked about what would I would go back on. And I agree with Luke. Everything happens for a reason. And I believe that I learned a lot about myself during that time that I'm so grateful for, to understand, who I am. I'm so much more in tune with my body and my mind than I've ever been in my lifetime prior. So I'm grateful I went through that. Now, that being said, my sister, Leslie, I love her dearly. She is also my co-founder as well, my partner, but she's also our co-CEO of our company. She was leading Mid-Day Squares, and she took a sabbatical because she had a burnout and she needed time off, and she had some health stuff that she had to deal with. And she stepped back from the company for the last 4 months, and she was literally the creator of the product and leading the organization. And I was just with her in Orlando for a week, and she was for coming back to work, and she has so much more energy now, and she's so much more fired up, so much more creative, so much more excited and feeling more present, I think, as Drew was saying. And what I noticed is when she stepped down, she was very honest in the communication with the team. And yes, the team was sad, but you need to be as transparent as possible with your team, and that creates a culture where other people will be transparent as well. Your teammates will be transparent to each other. They'll be transparent to you as a leader, and that actually builds a culture that's very powerful. That builds a foundational team that is there together along the good and the bad, and not hiding things and all that stuff. So I think, no matter what position you are in your company, whether you are an executive, whether you're not an executive, whether you're just, you're just starting at a company, open communication is everything. And having those hard conversations, even if it's scary for the organization, even if it puts the organization in a bit of a weaker spot at the time, it will strengthen everything going forward. And I always say, sometimes to take 10 steps forward, you actually have to go a step back, or just 2 steps back, 3, 4. And by the way, if the business doesn't work after that, then it wasn't meant to work at the end of the day. If you're not going to do this at the expense of your health, health is wealth. I used to not even agree with that. I used to think that go, 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 and it will all come back after. But if you're not healthy during that journey, you're not going to get to where you planned on going or you want to go. So I would say open communication and health as well are the 2 biggest things. And I think every human understands that from a deep human perspective. Forget about business, but a human to human perspective.
Exactly. One thing that I shared kind of briefly last week is what led to my burnout was I was, after Genius Juice, shut down, lost my father in March. Genius Juice shut down around the same time. It was a 1-2 punch. I dove into work. And so sometimes we use work as almost like an escape, right? To escape, whether it's spending time with people you love. People do that, right? They go to work and they say, oh, let me just put the love and the family on the back burner because they're always there. But you have to realize that the people in your life are not always there, right? You never know what could happen tomorrow. And especially for anyone who has children, right? Like, Drew, Luke, Wade, I'm sure Jake soon, next 5 years, let's call it, is you only get that chance once when a child is growing up. When a child is 1 year old, 1 year old, or born 1 year old, 2 year old, once they pass that age, you're not going to see that ever again, right? They're going to keep growing up. So that really lights my fire and has really re-inspired me is over in December, after working 5 different jobs, okay? 5 different jobs after Genius Juice shut down. The podcast was one, working with a company in Thailand's another, and it goes on and on and on, doing sales for a couple different companies. It hit me in December when I just really took that 2 weeks off, 3 weeks off, first time in a long time. I felt more joy and more love from just being present, as Drew was saying, with my family and seeing them and hearing them and listening, and not looking through the lens of a burned out entrepreneur, but a lens of someone who's present and re-energized. There's a quote that I read this morning on LinkedIn from Christopher Walken. I don't know if you saw this, like, cross your feed, guys, but it said, it said, like, if you try to impress people while you're alive, no one's really going to remember that after you die, right? Majority of people, right? Even if you're a big time star, biggest rock star, whoever, CEO of a major company. So one thing that I've struggled with, that I'm improving, but still very hard, is not to go out of my way to impress people or be a people pleaser. We all have to do that sometimes, whether it's business, to make people feel good. But there's a line that if you cross that line and sacrifice your own happiness and your own health to make others happy, like that, it's just not worth it. What's worth it is taking care of yourself first. So
I agree. I mean, what you bring up for me, Alex, is, I think for men, a lot of our purpose is outside the home, right? And I think we also saw maybe our dads and how men compete is how we show up economically in so many ways. And my life coach had me read a number of books on masculinity that helped me understand what it means to be a healthy man. And one of the things he taught me is this idea of looking at my life in many ways as a kingdom, right? And so in my kingdom, there's certainly me and taking care of me so that I can show up for my wife, my children, for all parents and all these things. And it's like the kingdom isn't just the company. The company's on that kingdom list, right? But the kingdom also includes myself and everybody else on it. And if I'm not taking care of myself, I can't take care of my kingdom as the man of, as the man or patriarch of my family. And so I've learned a much healthier form of masculinity that's much more balanced. And I show up better and for everybody, in my quote unquote kingdom now.
It's the separation of the human self, like we are humans at our base level and the founder. And I don't know about you guys, but I really struggled with, my whole identity was the founder of Revival Tea Company, and being able to separate those two things and say like, yeah, that's part of you. It's not all of you. You're a husband, a father, but you're also just Drew. And being able to, like, one of the things that was most helpful for me as I've worked through this is, we have such a delayed gratification, especially as founders, of like, once I do this, then I deserve this. Once I do this. And it's like, we even do that on a daily basis where we say like, oh, once I finish my work, then I can play with my son, then I can play music, then I can do the things that fill me up. And, you know, my therapist was like, dude, what if, like, who would you be as an entrepreneur if you did those things first? Like, you know, you are already a success. What you've accomplished, like, you deserve all of it. And so I think that separating yourself from that identity is such an unlock for sure.
Yeah, it's really people, I think, you know, measuring yourself. I'm seeing some comments here as well, like, you know, someone posted, you're not a man, so you're in 400,000 a year and all that stuff. Like, it's and then you know, Mike Fata posted, you know, it's okay, you can get rich, but it kind of is a trap. It's still good to get rich. You want to, you know, support your family and have money and not have to worry about, you know, buying things for your family or having a lifestyle that you don't have to penny pinch everything. But Mike Fata shared something really, really great, that you get there and like all the shit you had to go through to get there, you're envisioning this is what it's going to look like on the other side. And then you finally get there. If you're, you know, work hard enough, get a little lucky along the way, you're like, wait a minute, this is not what I was expecting. Like, this success, I don't feel good. Like, I don't feel as good as I thought I was going to feel. So it goes back to, I think, what a couple of people said in this room, that the mentality of, when I get there is when I'll do this, or when I get there, I'm going to feel better. Like, it is, that's a fucking trap, man. It's a trap. And you got to be present in the moment and enjoy your life right now. As cliched as that sounds, that's it.
Alice, I want to add something. So echo everything, but comparison can be the thief of joy for many, unless you do the work individually, personally, to deal with comparison. You know, when I burnt out, comparison was one of the reasons that I was chasing this, wanted that, was angry at other people's success. And I realized that that's not normal, that I would be angry or jealous or envious of that, rather than being inspired. And I worked through therapy to realize that it was actually on me. It was about me. I was insecure. I was going through all these things and applying all this pressure. And now I can actually enjoy people's success, and I actually cheer people on. I want them to win. I want to elevate, because it's not a zero-sum game. This game of CPG, or this game of life, there's an abundance in everything. You know, obviously time's the only thing that's not really abundant, but everything else is pretty much abundance if you choose that. And once you have that mentality, it actually takes a lot of the stress and pressure from entrepreneurs off, because a lot of entrepreneurs get caught in with all the social media, with all the titles, with all of this, that, all the jazz that's out there. It's very easy to have your joy taken away from you. And I think that the work to be put in is to be okay and fired up, rather than anxious and mad. And that just takes the own work, you know. And once you have that, comparison is great. It can become used as a great inspiration and a great way to achieve whatever you want to achieve, both in life or in the business world. And I think that pays a lot to a lot of burnouts out there that people don't realize, is they compare themselves day in, day out, not for positive reasons, but for negative reasons.
Yeah, I think, Jake, when you mentioned that anxiety, I think one of the biggest learnings I've had in the last 3 years is how much fear has influenced me. And I used to think that I didn't have faith in God if I felt fear. And so, like, I just would deny it. And the fear started, like, living in my body and destroying me. And then I realized, like, fear is just like this messenger. God gave it to us, right? It passes through us. It's like there's a risk manager part of it too. And like, I learned how to have a conversation with the fear. And I recognize it in my chest. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about. I'll feel it in my chest. I'll have the conversation. I process through it, make changes if necessary. And I'm not like riddled with that. My life isn't being run by the fear anymore.
Yeah. It's you know, the famous quote, FDR, you know, we have nothing to fear but fear itself, right? Which is one of my favorite quotes of all time. And, you know, and also it's funny, like it's referenced in pop culture or movies or TV, where fear takes control of people and they suddenly break out of that. You know, it's a bad example, but Breaking Bad, right? You know, Walter White scared his entire life. Now he went to a negative thing to make the money for his family, but the symbolism of it is that he's like, I'm not going to be scared anymore. I'm just going to reach and go for whatever I want to go for. I'm not going to let people run me. I'm not going to let people judge me. I'm going to go for it, even though it was making meth, right? Which is not a good thing to do. And if you look back and reflect at the times, at least for me, when I felt at my worst or felt down or stressed out in my body, it starts with the thought of that fear. Like, it just comes from your mind. And what the mind is so strong that there could have been something that happened 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. And you could be sitting on a couch, enjoying yourself, listening to music and having a great time. And suddenly your mind clicks back to that memory, that bad memory or that fear. Your heart rate goes up, your stomach, you start not feeling good. That's how powerful the mind is. And so what I learned from my life coach, Dan Crothers, who's phenomenal, Crothers, is the thoughts are going to happen for fear, anxiety, imposter syndrome, all these things. Jake was talking about, Drew was talking about, Luke. It's how fast you catch that thought and go, that's just a thought. That's not who I am. And I'm going to let that thought go because it serves no purpose to me and my life. So that's something I really learned from working with a life coach for the most difficult time in my life, the last year and a half.
So I think we've got 10 minutes left, and I want to give a chance. We have to get to our sponsor again. We need to, but I want to pose a question with regards to. So it's been a great conversation. We've talked a lot about past experiences, but what I'm most interested in is with the learnings you've had and where you're at today now. How are you going to apply those learnings to 2025 to help push your company forward? And let's start with Jake. I'll go reverse order this time. Jake.
Oh, I love that question, Wade. So actionable steps for me was number one, sleep. When I was burnt out, I was sleeping 4 to 5 hours per night. I've made it a minimum 7 right now, and I actually feel just from that a lot better. Second is the input I put into my body. I'm very cautious now what I'm putting in and what I'm intolerant to. I have IBS. My stomach would always make me feel tired and make me feel, just not great, and that would affect my work. So I've already handled that. It's not about aesthetics or diet or anything like that. It's just about feeling the energy. And then the last thing is just movement. Consistently reminding myself to move, whether it's walks. I think Drew said it before, walks, or just he plays music. I actually like to just like play sports, whether it's pickleball, hockey, even tennis. If it's 15 minutes, I don't care. All those movements actually combine the dopamine. It creates real dopamine for me, and that makes me want to achieve. And I think the overall theme that I'm doing for 25 that I put forward is protect and maintain energy. And that's how I want to live my life. And all those things will make me a better leader, a better husband, a better, uncle, all these things, better sibling, friend, and CPG founder, I guess.
Hey, Jake, I wanted to ask you something that has come up in my life. It's, excuse me, it's like there's toxic people, right? How do you, there's people that give you energy and people that take energy. How do you handle someone, whether it's, let's say a colleague or whoever, how do you handle that in your mind and then socially if there's someone that could be toxic in your life?
So I used to just try to please everybody. I think that drains, that's a vampire of energy because nothing really happens and you feel discouraged. So I've gone through this with, childhood friends and things like that have, changed, and just interests have changed and way I feel. So I made a conscious effort to now, have this theory, which I read about, which is called let them. If somebody is draining me of energy, I just let them, and it's disempowered for me. I don't care. And I hang out with people that make me feel alive, that make me want to win, that make me think big. And if you're not part of that type of vibe, you're out for now. And I've decided to be selfish with that, in a good way. And it's really started already in the last 6 months. I've been doing that, and it's been really, really empowering and energizing. And again, it leads back to my thesis of 2025, protect my energy. So don't try to fix things that require so much effort and you to change all these things. If that's like the thing, a lot of people deal with trolls and they try to save them, or they try to deal with friends that they had for 30 years or 20 years, and things change, and that's okay. And you got to let things die if it's going to die. If it comes back, great. If it doesn't, it's part of the game.
Right. Really well said. Really well said.
Drew, how about you for 2025?
Yeah, something that hasn't been said is burnout isn't something that gets put up on a whiteboard and then erased once you've done this or that. It always is with you, and it's always something that can come back. And so it takes me back to, it's funny, like you got to be selfish, like the sleep thing. It's like, I want to, my body is in a way that it wants to go to sleep at 7:30 p.m. And I gotta do that to show up best for my family. I wake up at 3 every morning. I do the whole miracle morning thing for about 90 minutes every day. But you got to be selfish. You got to say no. Alcohol is not something that's ever been a net positive in my life. And so being able to cut things out, whether it be the sleep, the alcohol, all that, and like, founder 101, right, is like, got to be willing to say no, got to be willing to offload. And so for 2025, I'm so optimistic about what we're going to be able to accomplish as a company, because I've been able to not only add so many incredible members to our team the past year, but empowered them to actually do their jobs. Kind of like the music analogy. I found a good drummer, found a good guitar player that can now go out and do their thing. I don't need to do it, on my own. So that's really our focus for 25.
Nice.
School of Rock, Drew. School of Rock. Let's
Luke,
go.
Luke, last but not least.
Thank you. Yeah, for me in 2025, my theme is upward and discipline. And I think I had been through a few years of metamorphosis, of change, as I've become the person that I am today. And now it's like discipline around the things that I really care about. So I did this like thing about hell yeses for this year is gratitude practice, starting with journaling every day, living in continuous gratitude, recognizing every moment is a gift, spending time and prioritizing my new wife, Sasha. I feel like everything starts from that, right? If my home life is good, my wife and I are good, I can show up better at work. I can show up better in everything I do, even for my kids. If my marriage is going well, I'm investing that time, spending time with my children. I love them. They inspire me to do better in every area of my life. The self-care has come up a couple times. That's really big for me. Sasha and I, my wife and I, have done yoga for the last 12 days straight as we started this year. And our intention is to do it every day this year. And I think that yoga is kind of a meditation for me. Key one also is living in my masculine energy, like this healthy lion energy, and like this non-toxic way that doesn't lead to burnout, that leads to balance, that leads to me taking care of my whole kingdom, if you will. Physical strength. I'm working out 3 times a week with a personal trainer, and then this ongoing personal growth and connection to God. And I think if I do all those things, I'm going to not burn out, and I'm going to show up amazing in 2025.
Nice.
So well said. You're beaming, Luke. You're beaming. I love it. Shining. All right. How about you, Wade? Same question to you.
Well, I think, for me, I might be the elder statesman in this group, which is hard to say. So, and we're short on time, Alex. I could go on for a long period of time, but I feel like a lot of what I've heard today, I've experienced in my own ways, in different ways. I own my own restaurant at my goodness, I have to do the math. I always do this, 23 years old, that resulted in personal bankruptcy that ultimately led to a divorce and just a number of things. So I think it really that was, I always refer to that as my college years, right? I went straight. I started working full time when I was 18 years old and haven't stopped. And I think so much of what I've done and what I've experienced, I haven't necessarily learned and done through a therapist or professional help, but it's been a lot of self-reflection. And so for me, I think right now, I tend to be harder on myself than anybody else possibly could be, Luke included. And so my mindset, I agree wholeheartedly with what Luke said. Is it starts at home and my relationship with my wife, and as long as that's the center of where I'm at, and that kind of leads everywhere else. But the other thing that I tend to do is I focus very strongly on the person in the mirror. And whether it's when I get up in the morning or when I go to sleep at night, as long as I can look in the mirror and feel good about what I've done that day and or what I think I'm going to do that day, I think I'm doing pretty well. So I think, for me, it's just continuing down that road, continuing to push myself, both professionally and personally, and just, doing all I can to be a good person and enjoy the moment, and live every day, like, and make the most of every day that I have, and take chances, take opportunities, be adventurous and do things and live life, right? And not eat, sleep, breathe, work. No offense, Luke. But also to and have that same passion, when I punch out and I'm on my own time. So
cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'll share mine really quickly. Excellent shares, everyone. This is a great episode, and I think the comments, my feeling, I already know this is a great episode just from my own feeling from listening to everyone, but the comments really reflect that people got a lot out of this. And there's a podcast from a woman named Mel Robbins. I don't know if anyone's tuned in to her. And someone mentioned this earlier about toxic people in your life. And it's I think it's a book now. Also, she wrote a book called Let Them.
Yeah.
And someone said that here. I think it was Robert Kogan. Yeah, let them. So if someone's like bothering you, just let them. Like, don't try to fight it. Don't try to prove them wrong or be right. So for me, I think my answer is a little different. I'm still putting the pieces back together. Like, I still don't feel 100%. I still feel a lot. I still feel a lot of sadness and pain, almost, every other day, sometimes every day, from how hard 2024 was for me from a personal and business standpoint, but also just challenges every day, and really catching when these thoughts happen, which are not good for me and my health. So my honest answer is I'm still working on it. I'm exactly where I need to be is my answer. And where I am is working on it, forming more discipline, implementing things in my life to recharge me and make me feel good, and being present and aware if there's something that does not make me feel good, and saying, hey, I'm listening to my body. I need to stop this, and not try to impress someone, not try to be, the big tough guy in the room, right? That's going to dominate the conversation or dominate this or be the leader on this project. It's okay to step back sometimes. It's okay to delegate and let others take over and help you. It's okay to ask for help. And so I'm in that stage of asking for a lot of help, and the community has given me a lot of love and help from all the posts I've done and everyone in this room. So thank you, everyone. And that's where I'm at. So let's go to our prize. All right. So switching gears to Sati Soda, which Jake, lucky for you, is going to be available in Canada. So no nuts there.
Thanks to Robert Kogan.
Thanks to Robert Kogan. There's no nuts in it, Jake. No nuts. So a little about our sponsor, premier sponsor for this episode is Powerful Energy Distribution, and the brand that he's bringing to Canada that's already in the United States, Sati Soda. And Sati Soda is committed to creating the only certified organic functional soda on the market by using clean, non-GMO, functional, and USDA certified organic ingredients. Sati, which actually means, I believe in Buddhism, it means mindfulness, I believe, if I'm not wrong. The root meaning of that name, Sati, S-A-T-I, which is a great fits for this topic. It strives for great taste without being overly sweet, giving people a truly unique soda option. Wade, do you have and then the prize is a 12-pack of Sati Soda, and also make sure to reach out to Robert Kogan, Powerful Energy Distribution, if you'd like to get your brand into Canada. Looks like we lost Luke. All right. So with all that said, do we have a question?
I don't have one handy, but I can go back to the beginning of the show when when we said how many grams of fiber were in our newest clients' Vibes, the pack that I held up. Is that too hard or is that too obscure?
Not at all.
All right.
You can do that one.
So I'm going to show the package again just because I love these guys. So I mentioned a number of dietary fiber grams inside this little packet that you see here. What was the answer? And we'll see. Oh, bam, Hugh got it. Just like that. Just like that. 17's right. All right, Hugh.
Record time.
Nicely done.
Okay. So make sure to email cpgvibes100@gmail.com to claim your prize. If you do not email us, you cannot claim the prize. Next week, I know we're over time here, so we'll wrap this up in the next minute or so. It's going to be an episode with me and Wade. So going back to our roots, the OG, and the sponsor for next week is Paper with an L in it, with Webb Knutson, and he'll be on our show. I just have so much gratitude for the community and for everything, for you, Wade, Jake,
Likewise.
Drew, Luke, wherever you are. And thank you guys for sharing the story, being very, very vulnerable and really helping the community by sharing what you have been through. So thank you guys for spending the time on our show.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it.
Peace, love, guys.
We'll see everyone next week. Same place, same time. Take care, everyone.